Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining again. I hope you guys are having a great day. I'm having a great day. Thanks for joining for yet another episode of Tableau Tip Tuesday, the series where we try and shine a light on some of Tableau's functionality. From beginner to expert, this is a great series for you to find those hidden gems that will take your visualizations to a new level. Today we're going to be going over custom background mapping. I'm actually really excited for the demo we have here for you guys today. This is one of my personal favorite sections right here. However, whenever I'm in a classroom environment and I say, hey, we're going to be going over mapping, I always notice that invariably half of my class is going to put their heads down and say, hey, mapping is great, we just don't capture geographic data in our data sets, so while I can see its utility, we're not going to use it. And I would urge people not to think that, because there are several techniques that we can learn from mapping that we can apply to different chart types and personalizations later. And we're going to be learning one of those here together today. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. So on our first sheet here, I have a picture of a map right here, just a globe map with the cities plotted all over it that we do business in. And when you think about it, this map is nothing more than a scatter plot on top of a very familiar background image. Now, to account for the curvature of the Earth, we don't use X and Y coordinates, we use latitude and longitude, but I like to show this visual right here, because if I select my null indicator down here, and I say show data at default position, we'll notice that that dot is going to go right at where 0, 0 would be in this particular scatter plot, right in the ocean outside the Sahara Desert. Alright, so what our goal here is we want to remove this picture of the Earth and then plot our own data on top of it. So you have to have a little bit of strategy over what you want to visualize. You know, I've seen cell phone tracking, I've seen pictures of websites and you're tracking mouse movements. I've even seen it used in like inventory management scenarios where you're just trying to see what's the busiest sections of your inventory room so you can rearrange it and get people in and out in a smoother fashion. Things like that it is really, really great for. So the example we're going to work through is actually one that I got from one of my students in one of my classes. He was the manager of a shipping yard. And he wanted to determine which of these shipping containers he was accessing inventory from more frequently so that he could move those to closer storage so that he could put it right onto a barge right away, and then stuff that he didn't access frequently he wanted to move into a more long-term storage area so that he could improve the efficiency at which these barges were loaded. Alright, so what he did is he took an aerial image of his shipping yard and he plotted each individual point where there was a shipping yard, and he made sure that he did it in a manner where he could blend it with his inventory management system. So their primary key was the location, so that he could size that location by how frequently he was accessing it. So I have a micro example of that up here, just a open source image of a shipping yard right here. You can't really see me, but I'm doing air quotes right now. But we're going to head and plot some points here. So you can see that I have a couple points plotted already, but rather than reuse my work, let's go ahead and build this from scratch right here. So first thing we want to do is take a look at our data up here. So this is our data. We can see that it is nothing more than a primary key, an X location, and a Y location. So this would be one half of the equation. The other half would be joining this primary key to my inventory management system so that we now have that container tied to an X and Y location. Alright, so let's go to a new sheet here. First thing that we want to do is add our image. So we'll go up to dashboard. Oops, sorry, no, map, background images, and we will add an image for this. Alright, this is my old image. We'll go ahead and add a new one here. We'll add our image. Alright, so let's go ahead and look for that image and browse for that file. I can pull it on the screen here. And there we go. Next thing we need to do is tie our X field to our X location down here and our Y field to our Y location. You can see that's coming through incorrectly right there. So we'll go ahead and just swap that to Y. Next, we need to say the upper and lower bounds for our X and Y axis. So again, this would take knowing the coordinate plane that you are trying to plot on, but I know that mine just goes from the points 0 to 5 here. And that's really all there is to it. So I'll go ahead and press OK right here. Now we just have to take our X and Y location up to our shelves to build our scatter plot. And you can see, oops, if I get that on the correct axes here, you can see that it's plotting it on top of my background image there. Now all we have to do is disaggregate with the primary key for where each container is. And now you can see if I make that black and maybe a circle so we can see it a little bit better, you can see that it is plotting those points directly where we would like them to be. Now there is a little bit of a problem here because as you can see, my plot points right here, they don't have my upper and lower bounds in there. So it's going to plot those points where they are, but it doesn't happen to encompass the edge of the range, which again was 0 to 5 that I indicated here. So let's go ahead and add a point to this data source right here. I have that pulled up right here, where we can just go ahead while Tableau is still open and we'll just say YouTube test. And we'll put that in our upper corners here, so maybe 5 and 5. Save that data source, and now all we have to do is come back to Tableau and refresh that data source, and we should have our new plotted point here. So we'll right click our data source and hit refresh. And just like that, you can see that we have now plotted the upper right hand corner of our scatter plot here. So just as easy as that, go ahead and add all of the different points that you would like to plot and then join it with your management data set in order to get more critical insights out of those points. Alright, so a couple of things to note when you're doing this is you cannot have incremental points, so I cannot place a point at 1.5, 1.5 or something like that, but you can easily just multiply by 10 to turn that increment into a viable number. So I have a slightly larger example here where we can see a couple of the tricks that we can use in order to make our lives a little bit easier here. Now this is just open source information. I found this on the internet, and this one happens to be the probability that any given spot in Monopoly will land you in jail here. So I took that data source, and the only thing I added was an X and Y location over here on the right hand side. So I added this column in. Then I just Googled for a Monopoly board and I put this in here, and now you can see that I can plot these points exactly on top of the spot that they pertain to. You can see Kentucky Avenue right there in my tooltip. So how do we get the precision when we're trying to plot these points? Well, we can simply use annotations. So if I right click a spot and I go to annotate a point, by default on a scatter plot it's going to have those locations in that annotation. So I can go ahead and press OK, and now you can see my annotation with a tail indicating what points that tail represents. So if I wanted to place a point on this community chest right here, you can see that I would just go and add 152 1461 to my data set, and I could plot a new point right there. So very, very handy when we're trying to get pixel perfect centering on all of our points. And you can see that I'm a little bit off right here. Once you know the difference between 2 points, you can just use a simple formula to get that equal spacing so that you don't have any human error. One last thing that we want to be mindful of is if I select this mark right here, it says chance. We want to be careful because since there are multiple chances on this board, I'm not going to have primary keys for each of them. So community chest and chance, there are multiples, so I need to take the time to have chance 1, chance 2, chance 3, unique primary keys per chance. Otherwise, it's just going to average those 3 points together. As you can see, my aggregation up here is average. Alright, that's all we have for you guys today. Join us next week for another tip.